It was insane. It was nuts.
From ski-town hustler to national champion, Chisolm Woodson reveals the strategic secrets and mental game that built his championship legacy. This is Cue the Experts.
Welcome to Cue the Experts, a pool improvement podcast where we dive deep into the minds of players and instructors who have dedicated themselves to mastering the sport. I'm Jeremiah Gage.
And I'm Digital Dave.
And today we're joined by Chisolm Woodson. He's a multiple-time national champion and creator and owner of Bear Down Billiards. Thanks for joining us today, Chisolm.
Thanks, Gage. I've never heard you sound more professional.
Yeah, right. For
that's a compliment. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
But we've been friends for a long time, so
that's true. Yeah, I was going to mention that, but I'm like, let's do like a professional intro for the podcast. It'll
and
be
I just
almost
blew
kind
it
of
right out of the
water. So, if pool tables could talk, what do you think yours would say about your game?
Play faster, damn it.
I mean, it would scream that, wouldn't
it? Yeah, you probably spot on with that one. So let's go to the next. All right. So how did you get started in pool and what attracted you to the sport?
Well, growing up, we had a table, but I didn't play any more than basically any other kid. I mean, sure, we'd knock balls around and stuff. My dad liked to play, but as I remember, he wasn't very, he wasn't very good, but he enjoyed it. And that's why we had a table. And then, so that was about it. I don't even remember if I knew how to draw a ball. I mean, but I could make balls a little bit. Then, after college, I moved to Vail, and ended up there, not purposefully, but ended up there for 10 years. But in the first year I was there, when the off season hit, when the mountain closes, everyone leaves. And I was scheduled to leave to go back to North Carolina, but I wasn't leaving for a couple of weeks. And so the town was dead. Like, it was empty. And it's different nowadays. It's now all the businesses are open. But back then it was like the grocery store and maybe 2 bars, and that was it, in the post office and the bank. And so, instead of sitting at home, all my roommates and friends had left. So I was just sitting at home alone with nothing to do. So I'd go out to the one bar that was open, and they had 2 pool tables. And I walked in, and there was like eight people total. And one of them was a guy that I sort of knew. And he was like, "Hey, do you want to play pool with me? We're playing doubles." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he was clearly better than I was. And then he said, he goes, we're playing for it was either $1 or $2. He goes, a stick. And I was like, "What does that mean?" And so we played, and we won. We played for a few hours and had beers and got drunk. And I remember I won $8, and I was like, that was fun. And I just won $8. Like I want to do more of this. And then I found out through him, he was like, "Hey, in the summers, this place, Garfinkel's, has pool tournaments." And I was like, "You're kidding me." It's like, "Yeah, it's on like Wednesday nights. It's $5, blah, blah, blah." So when I went back home, I went and bought I went and bought a pool cue and went to the local pool shop and bought it was a Q-Tech, but back then Q-Techs were not thought of as good sticks. It's an Earl Strickland pool club. And I think it cost me like $80, and I bought a little 1x1 soft case sleeve for it, and went back and just got addicted, started playing those little tournaments, and that was my start.
So just right off the bat.
Yeah, that was probably in your early 20s or?
Yeah, roughly 23. So.
Yeah. Did you stay in Vail a long time?
10 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah. Just that was a life, just bartending and partying and playing pool. I was either playing pool, snowboarding, working, or drinking.
through all of that, what is it that drove you to try to get better? Where did that cusp sort of happen?
I think that was similar that a lot of people have, where there's just something that clicks inside your head and it hits some sort of endorphin. And the more I learned, the more I got addicted to it. And there was a guy that lived up there who was the best player in town. He ended up in the Springs later. Filipino guy named Dion Kearns. He's passed away since now. But he one day, this place called the Altitude Club opened about a year after that story started. And it was a place in Vail that had 6 9-foot tables in it. And so I'd go there and play all the time. And then one day for about 45 minutes, he just showed me some stuff. He showed me how to draw and then how to hit a follow shot. And I was like, and then like how to, put top right and top left and what it did with the cue ball. My brain just went.
Were you watching pool anywhere? Like TV, or back then maybe it was on ABC World of Sports?
No, just playing. But there was a bunch of pool in Vail for whatever reason. There were a bunch of bars that had 1 or 2 tables, and there ended up being 3 tournaments a week for a few years. One at the place with the 9-foot tables, and then 2 different bars that have them. There was another place called the Jackalope back then, which then became the Sandbar, and then the Half Moon, and it's now closed. But that place had 5 tables, and there was, you could go in there and always gamble. You gamble with just other people like me, just ski bums, or a bunch of Hispanics that work there, that work in the restaurants and stuff. They'd be in there drinking beer and gambling, and I don't know. It was just a time when there were a bunch of people. I could always find someone to play every time I went out, and then I found a core group of friends, and we would play a ring game every single night, 5 of us, and we'd go to the place with the 9-foot tables. And so we were just we were just improving with each other. We were just self-taught. My mechanics were horrible. I had this, my arm was very like this.
The chicken wing.
Yeah. But I didn't know any better. Yeah, nothing to. Yeah, no one elite to watch. It's different than being in Denver.
Yeah, it's different nowadays where you can just watch on YouTube and really see what really good players can do. It's kind of amazing. And so that kind of leads me to you were playing a lot just because it was fun, and you were competing at the local level. What inspired you to start competing at the national level?
Well, another really good player up there, and he ended up in the Springs for a while. Mike Thompson, he was a good friend of mine. He was like, hey, there's a big tournament in Las Vegas, the BCA pool tournament. And I couldn't go that year because I already had other plans, whatever I was doing in the off season. And back then it was in May. So I went the following year. And because back then you didn't have to play league to go. You could just sign up and play in the open division. You just had to pay your sanction due, I guess. But you didn't have to be an active league player. And so I went to that, and once I saw that, it was all over. I was done at the Riviera. And the first year, because they paid out so deep back then, in the first year, my first match, I played a guy and that I shouldn't have beaten. He was better than me, but he just hooked himself a couple times, and I ended up winning. And then my second match, I played a guy that we were pretty even. And I would say my skill level at that time was probably APA 5, I'm guessing. And I
had different divisions back then, and you were
open and master. That was it. The open division had like 2,000 people in it. It was insane. It was nuts. And so then my second match, I drew a guy kind of similar to me, ended up winning that. And I lost my next 2, but winning my first 2 matches put me in the money. And so I got, my money back plus $20. And I was like, and I've been back every single year since then. That was 97. I've never missed BCA since then.
So what do you think your biggest accomplishment was? And when you attained that, how did that feel?
So I've been very fortunate. Gage and I were talking recently about this. I've been very fortunate in nationals because a lot of people go there every single year and they're super good players and they haven't won trophies. I mean, you got to have a lot of things go your way to come in the top 3 of one of those big tournaments. I mean, a lot of things go well besides just playing well. And I've had very good, knock on wood, good luck that way. And the biggest at the time was in 2006. My team won the Open. And back then it was just an Open and Masters. And we won. There was, I'm trying to remember how many teams, maybe 600 teams. That was quite an accomplishment and a tough tournament. And we just, yeah, wow. It was nuts. You know, I mean, because you look at the BCA teams now, but there's 5 divisions. So imagine it piling that down into 2 divisions, and all the same players. But yeah, so that was my biggest, and that was a team event. And then for singles, in 2020, I won the BCA Fair Match singles. That was good. And at the time, I was like, well, they used the Fargo system, so I was spotting a game to some people, and and then since then I played in it, and it is not easy. I just played really well that year. I played really well, and since then I'm like, oh my God, now I play against. I'll be spotting a game to some guy who's a 575, and he breaks and runs all of his racks, and I was like, well,
humbling, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I played in that, players everywhere. And there was a 400 level player that brokered had 2 racks on me. It just, how that's how it goes in 8-ball sometimes. It's just an easy layout. So,
yeah.
It's quite the journey.
I love playing for the trophies. I know it's a joke, like, oh, what are you gonna do with the trophy? But the cash goes right away. But I mean, I've got a whole bunch on display over there, and I've got another display in the mountains, and there are always memories for each trophy.
Exactly. Every trophy has a story behind it.
Yep.
That's definitely more meaningful. And so, yeah, you've got a really interesting journey, as we all do. But we all have our ups and our downs. And I was curious, what were some of your biggest obstacles, like one of your biggest obstacles, and how did you overcome it?
I would say my biggest obstacle was once I became the best player in Vail, and there was no one to challenge me. And so I got kind of stagnant for a little while. And I had gone to Dallas and went to Randy Getlicker, and that was in 2000, something like that, 2001, something like that. And so I took his 3-day course, and I got my instructor certification too. I think that was a different trip when I did that. But so that bumped my game up and changed my mechanics and everything, and that was extremely helpful. But then it got to that point where I was like, what am I doing? And then and I wanted to compete more and play more, and in bigger tournaments. So there was a girl that I'd been dating and living with for a couple of years, and so I was in Vail, kind of nested down. And then we split up. And so I was like, okay, I'm single, kind of bummed, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start going down to Denver as much as I can and playing in bigger tournaments. And I'll stay with a friend. I had a good friend that lived down there that I could crash on his couch. And so that was my plan. And then I went down. There was a really big tournament at Table Stakes, the original Table Stakes. And it was a bar table, 9-ball tournament, like race to 9, I think. It was like 200 people, and it was a big, long tournament. And during that tournament, we actually ended up meeting Sam Vidal. And so we hit it off, and then so we started dating, and she had just gotten the pole bug, and she was just starting to play a lot. And so we started dating, and so then I was going back and forth. The days that I wasn't working in Vail, I would be down to Denver, and then I would stay with her, and then we would go and play in all the tournaments on whenever we could. Well, there were tournaments every night of the week, little $10 tournaments in places. And so and then eventually, after a couple of years, I kind of migrated full time down to Denver. And then by then it was just playing every day. And so that's what pushed my game up, was always playing. Every tournament I went to, there was always players that were better than me there.
So that big obstacle was coming to bigger cities and just kind of embracing all that competition?
Well, the obstacle was when there was no one to I didn't have to play any better to beat everyone. There was no one. I was by far the best player in Vail. Mike and Dion had already left, and so I was so much better. There was just, there was no one to compete against. I could play in these little tournaments, but I didn't even have to play well, and I would win. It's like
overcoming that ended up getting out to play.
Yeah, location-based obstacle.
Yeah. Well, how's your mindset changed and your view of the sport from when you started to now? You've kind of run the gamut of where you were and what you've been doing.
I took it very seriously for a long time, and it was a passion and a hobby, and I'm a very competitive person by nature. When I would lose a close match, like especially that would cost me the tournament or something, like I couldn't sleep right for 3 nights. Like I'd wake up with my heart racing, going, oh. And now it's not as high of expectations. I'm also I'm almost at 54. I'm actually 55 now. My game has plateaued a while ago, and if anything is dropped a notch. So that's just part of it. I accept it. So I go out and I have fun, and it takes a lot of the pressure off, which can be good things at times. So, when I get over a tough shot in a crucial situation, I'm like, I know it's not the end of the world if I don't make this. And then sometimes I'll make it more often than maybe I would have when I felt like the whole world was on the line, and yeah, I don't know. I still love it. And I really love team events, and Gage and I have a team event coming up. Yeah.
That's right. We're going to Vegas here in like a month or two.
Yeah. It'll be in the thick of it.
And I'm on your team because you seem to have something that just attracts like getting up there somehow. I don't know what it is.
I've had good luck on teams. I don't know. We've get that luck. I've been on teams, whether nationally or regionally, like the team tournament in Cheyenne and stuff. And I've been on teams where we've been in the top division, but on paper you look and you're like, boy, we have 80% of these teams are clearly better than we are, and we'll end up making a run and coming third. And it's like, I don't know, I don't know. I definitely like to. I think the team chemistry is huge, because I played on one team that had a bunch of monsters on it, but there was zero team chemistry, and we did terribly. And I'm a firm believer that you need to all be on the same mental page. That even includes all thinking that the same things are funny, even when you're not playing. I don't mean at the match, like sitting there making jokes, but that you can hang out off the table and enjoy each other's company. There's different, like that's who you want to go to battle with. That's who you want to protect in war.
Yeah. Yeah, you can really tell when a team is gelling and when a team doesn't. And at that level of competition, the talent doesn't matter nearly as much as just having each other's backs.
Yep.
It's more satisfying winning with people that you align with versus a few other monster players, like what you're saying, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
It's great.
Yeah, the team tournaments where you win together, you lose together, but it's more fun winning.
It is way more fun winning.
It's fun either way.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, let's move on to your apparel company, Bear Down Billiards.
Yes.
Which I can attest to, very fine quality. I have a number of shirts myself. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, the idea stemmed one year. Adam King, for those who don't know, he's a very, very good player. He and I at the BCA one afternoon, we didn't have any matches, and I was like, let's do a lap and check out all the vendors. And we were walking around, and it was all the same vendors. It was hustling, and I don't know, like I can't remember what the other clothing vendor was, but it was someone that you've seen every year. And the Hustlin' booth, they've been around a long time and they've been very successful. But you look at their booth, at least this is back then, 6 years ago, and it was like the same stuff that they'd had the year before. It just looked like they just packed it up and then put it back up, which I understand. You can't just keep putting out new product and what are you going to do with all the stuff that you made? You see those T-shirts, it says like rack 'em or stick, or have some sort of sexual reference or something, some cheesy kind of cool stuff. Now that one I like. So I was like, I go, I should make a clothing company. And I was like, I could make better stuff than this, something that would. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, the first thing is, I go, you got to have a good name. I was like, that's what's important. Something that's kind of commonly used in pool, but that's positive, not negative. Like Hustlin' kind of has a negative. This is no offense to Hustlin', sorry, Hustlin' guys, but the term Hustlin' has a negative connotation to it. And there were some local companies that had some ones, and that had some negative ones. I'm not saying it's bad. It was just, I was like, something more positive. And I couldn't think of anything. And that idea just kind of sat in my head for like 2 or 3 years. And then, walking down the street one day with my wife, and I wasn't talking about that. And we were window shopping or whatever. And then out of the blue, I go, I got it. I was like, Bear Down Billiards. And she goes, I have no idea what you're talking about, but that sounds great. So, and then off and running. And it wasn't like I just went to the presses. It was a lot of experimenting and money, time to figure out how to do it, the best items to get. It's a well-oiled machine now, but it just like any other business, there were some growing pains. It was fun though. It was a fun process. Well, at times really aggravating, but I love it.
Do you see your products in places that surprise you?
Yeah, I'll see them in Vegas from people that I don't recognize. When it first started, it was just kind of like anything else. It was hard to get people to buy it at first. First like some friends, of course. I gave shirts to friends and whatever, and then there was an APA tournament that was going on, and I went to where they were having it at the Mirage, and I brought some stuff, and it was like my first public showing of it, really. And I brought items and laid them out, and I don't know, they just soaked it up, and I sold like 20 things. I couldn't believe it. They were like waiting for me to finish a match so I can go over there and sell them a thing. So it kind of caught a niche in that thing, and then in the more competitive side of the pool community in Denver, that one took a little longer to get into. But I think eventually what happened was more people started buying it, and then better players started wearing it. And then as it went up the chain, it's kind of like self-advertising. And you see someone wearing something, and then it kind of sticks subliminally in your head, and you're like, oh, that. And it's like Gage, and it's good quality. It's not like I'm not tooting my own horn, because it's not like I sit here and knitted this fleece.
No, I mean, before I got a piece like what you're wearing right now, I had never worn it before, and one of the things that Gage was always saying is, this stuff is just really comfortable, and I've been really super surprised. It is absolutely comfortable, whether you got a T-shirt on underneath of it or not, and just wear it as a long sleeve shirt. I like shooting in long sleeves. I don't know if it's just the air conditioning in the pool halls, or just regular Colorado weather or whatever, but it's stretchy, it returns, it doesn't get stretched out. It's just really comfortable stuff.
Yeah. And when I first started, I literally thought, I go, okay, I'll sell about 50 of these, but it'll, I thought I'd just make some T-shirts and maybe sell 50. And that, that's what I thought was going to happen. But now to date, I haven't done a grand total, but over 1,500 total items that I've sold. All my items are made to order. I don't keep them like this one in this color already printed. So when someone wants something, they pick out the base color, and the size, and then pick out what color font they want. And I have so that leaves a plethora of options. And you can go on Facebook to Bear Down Billiards, and that has a page. And when you go to photos, each photo album is a different bracket of each item, and that item, like it'll say polos, and then you can click on it, and then it'll show all the different color items, and then you can just send me a message through it on Messenger and contact me that way.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, make sure to find Bear Down Billiards online. We'll put a link in the description below. And let's move on to some tips and strategies. I know that's some of the things that are some juicy stuff that some of our listeners want to hear. So I'll let Dave kick this off.
What do you think is the one thing you could pin down that improved your game the most? I mean, not just trying to beat everybody in Vail, but what is it, I guess, that gave you that kind of confidence that improved it to where you're like, I think I can do this and do this better?
Well, so mechanics are paramount, and so that's something that is even pros, I'm sure, are working on fine tuning. And so you go through stages, and as your mechanics improve or they become more repeatable, then the better your game gets. So you're gonna increase in that level, but strategy is huge, whether it becomes pattern play. Now, my preferred game is 8-ball, and so this comes kind of more into play in 8-ball than rotation. And I know rotation is heavily favored in most, well, at least for the pros, at least anything that you're going to watch. But for league players and the casual players, 8-ball is the predominant game of choice. And so strategy is paramount, knowing when to play safety, and that's based off of your skill level. Some people are taking on shots that are, maybe they're going to make 55% of the time, and where they have a safety that they can execute 98% of the time sitting right in the face, and they try that 55% shot because it hurts a lot of people's pride to play safeties. At the end of the day, the goal is to win. I mean, not a lot of people get mad at me because I played so many safeties on them. And those are, put it this way, they're never mad at me for playing safeties after they win. It's when they've lost the match. And then they're mad at all the safeties. Like, well.
Yeah, I would say your strategical game as far as making decisions, like within how you're playing at the time, is on another level. I mean, you really think about everything kind of like a chess match, honestly. It's
the way I view it. There are patterns sometimes that I'll play where I'll shoot. I'll be like, okay, I'll start my inning, and I'll be like, my third shot from here is going to be a safety. Like, I'm playing position to play a future safety that will all of a sudden flip the table around and give me full control, where before they had control. And also pattern play is really huge. Like, even when you're playing offensively and not playing safeties and running the rack, I see a lot of people. I love to watch 8-ball and study, to watch someone's pattern. And I love watching the pros and sit there and I go, this is my pattern, and I can see it. And then sometimes they'll shoot a different ball, and I'm like, and then usually because they're pros and they make it work, and I'm like, they just made it way tougher on themselves. Or sometimes I think, no, they just made it a lot easier. Like, I need to, figure out why. But there's a lot of times the ball in hand with like 5 balls left, and especially when I'm playing against my opponent, and they'll start with a ball, and I'll think, that's a mistake. It's just like you said, it's like watching a chess player like make a move, and you're like, that was a mistake. I mean, not instantly. It's not like I'm doing something now, but you just created problems for you down the road. And I see him starting with the wrong ball, and I'm like, this, as your pattern goes down, you're gonna get with those last 2 balls left. All of a sudden you're gonna be like, what? How do I get to the 8 from here?
Yeah, when you're sitting in your chair and you're like, how are they going to handle this other situation?
Yeah,
and then inevitably they see it, and you're like, oh, they didn't think of that.
Yeah. But
So you think
yeah,
the mental side and strategy is how you improve your game the most, is getting that mental side of the game in focus for yourself?
well, it's the way my brain works, and I don't know if that's stuff that can be taught. I've had a lot of people. I've had strangers come up to me in tournaments and go, "Man, your pattern play, like, I got to ask you, why'd you start? Like, you made that so simple, but how'd you think to start with that ball?" And I explained to them, I go, "Well, because of this and this and this, and then I knew that this would set up for this, blah blah blah." And they're like, "Oh, okay." Now I don't know if that's going to go into their head because not everyone's head's going to work the same. It's just like, I guess for pattern play, like, just I think the best thing is to watch good matches online and maybe even pause it, and when someone's starting in an open table, and then you tell yourself, like, okay, I would do this and then this and then this, and then hit play and see what they do. And if once they shoot the first shot and you're like, yep, I would have done that, and then they shoot the next shot, yep, and then the next shot is a different ball, pause it again, and then go, okay, what would I do from here, and then see if you can predict. I've never thought about that till right now, but that's probably a
You
good
know,
little
you say you
drill.
like 8-ball the best. With that, you have opponents' balls in the way early on, or even late if you're trying to run out. But your ability to have a choice of areas where you can play safe is you have a lot more balls you can do that with early or halfway through your pattern play. Once you get a little bit further beyond, you don't have as many balls that you can hide, behind for the opponent to not have a shot, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. 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 Once they have more balls on the table than assuming that, there's not like any weird little clusters, so you're like, hey, well, you better get out here because if you miss, you're going to be in trouble because I'm either running out or I'm going to put you in a not very pleasant situation.
Right. And where you say you're playing a ball to play a ball to play a ball to get to a safe, you can only do that in your first 3 or 4 or 5
Correct.
balls, right?
Oh, correct. That's very rare, and that's usually a situation like that is where my safe is not just a safety. My safety is taking that ball and clearing out something where one of my only problem ball was tied up with something. Instead of, if I don't have a good breakout ball for it, but I have sometimes the breakout ball is a ball that's not being pocketed. The cue ball is being locked up behind a ball. Doesn't happen very often, but it's very powerful weapon when it does.
Chisholm, do you have any hidden gems you're willing to share with us for improvement?
Ow. Well, no, especially in this day and age, because this, like I said, it's so different. If, depending on the level of player that we're talking about, but someone that's, still rising up, taking lessons is huge. It changed my pool game around when I went to Dallas. But back then, the only way to find lessons for me locally was basically just taking a lesson from the best player. And most of the time, like, the best player doesn't make necessarily a good instructor. Like if I won lotto and I wanted to take pay money that made no difference, and I wanted to take golf lessons, I wouldn't go to Tiger Woods and say, "Can I pay you whatever and you give me lessons?" No, I'm going to go to Tiger Woods' swing coach and say, will you teach me? Find someone who's a professional at instructing. And now they're all over. You can find, whether they're certified or not, but I mean, locally, we have a bunch of, that are good players that are very good instructors. And I have a bunch of friends in Denver, and it's improved their game, and they love it. So that's my biggest secret, instead of just sticking and, burying your head down and going, no, I know what I'm doing. It's like, no, let's just let down your ego.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ego gets humility, gets
Yeah,
humbled.
yeah.
Instead of taking a shot and going after somebody that's 300 Fargo bigger than you are and maybe losing $50 a set, you're better off actually paying somebody for lessons, and you'll get a lot more out of it.
1,000%. Yeah.
What do you, you've played some big tournaments, you've got some accolades. How do you stay calm and focused during those high stake matches?
Good. That's a really good question. The answer is you don't. To think when you're playing the further down you get in a big tournament, and I mean, in some ways it gets relaxing because you're in stroke. When it's hill and it's nervous, if you think that your opponent heart isn't beating fast, unless they're on drugs, yeah, their heart's beating fast.
Then it's beating faster.
Yeah. So I used to be a drinker, and I used to always drink when I played. So of course that helps. But then if you have too many, then it helps too much and has the opposite effect. But the way I look at it myself is I know that I'm going to get nervous at times. Sometimes, most of the time I'm not, but there are times when I'm going to be nervous. It might even be a league match. I don't know. You can't really put a pin on it when it's going to happen. When it does happen, I just tell myself, okay, yes, my heart's racing fast, but I still got a moving arm and a brain and eye-hand coordination. Just do your best to make the shot. And then you realize, and the more times you play with being nervous, I used to think that it means I won't be nervous. That'll go away. No, it doesn't go away. You just get used to shooting like in those conditions. And the more you do it, the more you get used to it.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that Gage is always harping on with me is fundamentals, pre-shot routine. And the more you can groove all that, it's something you can rely on, and that can get you through where, nervousness might end up taking a player and messing up their stroke because they are so nervous. But when you have something grooved like that, you can rely on that and be able to help you make the shot.
Absolutely. And when you are nervous and you do miss a shot that you normally wouldn't, it is frustrating, but maybe the next time you won't miss it because you were in that situation at that time. You experienced it. And the thing is, practicing by myself, I could sit there and put out a tough rack, and I could sit there and tell myself, okay, it's Hill in the BCA National Finals, and this is what I have. There's nothing I can do to make my heart beat any faster than it is right now, which is very slow, because you people do not make me nervous. So the only way to get experience doing that is to do it, put yourself in that situation. I think a lot of the league players, they have all the opportunity to play in, especially this day and age of all these Fargo tournaments, and they don't. It's like, there's this tournament, they have these tournaments at this pool hall. You should go and play in it. And they're like, oh, no. To each their own.
Pressure really takes your game to the next level at some point. Like, it really forces you to bear down, and it can often reveal a lot of flaws in your game as well. If you miss that shot, it's like, yeah, okay, you could work on your nerves and everything, but if you had shot that shot like 1,000 times, you're not going to be nervous on it. You're like, this is just another routine shot. So there's a lot of different skills to be had there.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time to any point in your career, probably towards the beginning, and give yourself one piece of advice for improving, what would that be?
Ooh, good question. So if I could go back in time and would have gone to Randy's class earlier. I don't know.
There you go. Get an instructor.
Yes, get instructor. Yep. Yeah, I would have honed my mechanics before I got, because they were hard to break. But if you get them the foundation set before you have any bad habits, I mean, that's.
Yeah, it goes a long ways for sure, especially at the beginning. Yeah. All right, so we've got some fun questions for you.
All right, I love fun.
All related to pool. What's the weirdest advice someone's ever given you about improving?
About improving? I guess this this could be called like improving. There was. Vaguely remember where I was. I feel like I was gambling somewhere, like just $5 a game or something. Some guy who, just did not know how to play, but one of those bar players who thinks he's good, and you're like, dude, I haven't seen you make more than 3 balls yet in a row. And he goes, so it had, it was a regular bar table. So it had the light that's got the bar, and then it's got 3 pendants, and so it makes like dots on the ball because they're bulbs instead of the incandescent fluorescent bulbs. And he goes, you know what you do? And he talked like that, of course. And he goes, you know what you do? You just shoot. See that middle shine right there, that dot right there from that light. You just shoot it right there. It'll go in that pocket every time. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, you just shoot it right there. It'll go right. You just cut it right in that corner every time. I swear. And I'm like, well, but what if it's, and so the cue ball was somewhere, the cue ball was like here, or I'm sorry, the object ball was here, and he was having it like cut down to here, and he had the cue ball here. He's like, just aim at that dot. And then I was like, well, what if I put the cue ball here? It's like, now I got to hit the edge of the ball. He was like, well, he's kind of like changed the subject. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. I was like, and I put the ball on the dot, and then I put the object ball on the spot, and then the cue ball like in between the 2 side pockets in the middle of the table. And I go, there's the reflection. And I go, so I just got to hit that dot if I want to make it in the right corner, or if I want to make it in the left corner. How does it know which corner it's going to go in? And he was like, well, man. And then he just like walked off, and but his advice, just shoot for the dot and it'll go in every time.
Just shoot for the dot.
So Chisolm, if you could play a match against anyone in history, living or dead, who would that be?
When I was first coming up, I was very starstruck by pro pool players. Now it doesn't faze me at all.
Do you remember the first one you met?
Yeah.
Like a TV kind of, pro player?
Yes. In person, no.
Mine was Steve Mizurak, and that was fun.
Oh, I bet. So okay. So I used to go to the BCA, and back then the pro tournament was its own locked-in room, and you had to buy tickets for it, and they had the men and the women's events playing at the same time, and you'd buy tickets for a session, and it would act a lot of fun. And the finals would be on ESPN. And so I would talk to people. I was taking pictures, and then I brought my printer with me, and then I would go up to the room and take the little digital thing out, and then print a picture, and then scurry back down. And then before the match was over, I'd get there before the match was over, and after the match was over, I'd be like, will you sign this? And I would hand them a picture of them that they obviously had just taken. And, this is back in the 90s. And so they're like, they're looking at it like, yeah, exactly. They're like, how'd you do it? I'm like, I got a printer in my room. And so that was cool. I was like, oh, but I didn't really get a chance to talk and hang out with them. I remember back then meeting Allison Fisher in Charlotte I was at a tournament in Pool Hall, and I think she had recently moved there, and she was there, and and we talked for a while. Now I've gotten to know her, know her a little bit. I mean, we don't have like each other's phone numbers or anything, but she's awesome. She's so funny. Oh man, she's so great.
No, but I think your comment was pretty good. I didn't think about that when devising this question about, living or dead, who would it be? I was thinking of pool players, but I mean, there are so many Hollywood types, athletes, whoever that would play pool. You see pictures of it everywhere, whether it's Jackie Gleason or the Rat Pack or whomever. So yeah,
how fun would it be?
Oh, it'd be a blast.
How fun would it be to play a match against Tom Cruise? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be epic. Spin the cue around a bit.
So many levels. So many levels.
Yeah. Take that, Vince.
Oh, man.
That would be your choice, you think? Or, anybody living or dead?
Yeah, Moscone, I really didn't get in. I don't have this, I don't know what the term is, like love affair for the old school players. That was before my time, and I'm not one of those. I'm not that nerdy into pool where I go back in time, and like worship those players. I understand that they were incredible, but it's just not my thing. And so, like, I don't have any desire to play with Moscone. I'm sure it would be cool, but yeah, I don't know now. I play a lot of poker, and so I've seen a lot of the pro players sit at the same table, and so you could see their personality, and some of them you're like that would be a fun guy to be friends with, off the table. Yeah, yeah. I guess if I had to pick one person that I know at least has played some pool that I play with, I would pick Tom Cruise. Yeah, that's what I'd
I
pick.
think that's a pretty good answer. You'd have a crowd, that's for sure.
I also just heard recently that apparently Nate Bargatze, the comedian, was talking about it, that his friend was working something with Mission Impossible, and that he was warned before he started working with him, before he met Tom. He said, he was like, just so you know, when you meet him, you're going to think you're best friends. So just be prepared. Like, you're not going to be best friends, but he's going to make you feel that way. So don't develop this all-consuming crush, because he's actually all of a sudden going to be gone, and you may never see him again the rest of this filming. But apparently he's like that likable and charismatic. Yeah, I dig people like that.
Well, Tom, if you're listening, then come into Chisholm's life and then leave.
Yeah.
And then here, go ahead.
Specifically for him, I have this hope that somehow, some way, he can take the role of Paul Newman and go Color of Money again.
You're like it in the line of like 5 million people that have hoped that.
I know.
Yeah. It would have been done if it was going to be done. That's what I feel.
So.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad.
It's time for another good pool movie.
All right. I've got one more fun question, and
Okay.
brace yourself. What's your most embarrassing moment during a pool match that you're willing to share?
Yeah, of course. I've got two that I could think of that just popped into my head. And the league I played in, I was the only 7, like not just on my team, in the entire league. So everyone thought I was a god. I was the best player they had ever seen, and because they'd never played anything else. And
so hold on, that means you were the only one in the entire league, even if they did these patches back then, because they give out a patch for beating a 7. They do that now.
Yeah,
Maybe they do that then.
No, and no one would beat me. They were terrified of me. They were in such awe that even if I messed up, they would be so nervous, and guys that they would miss shots that normally would never miss because they were so nervous. But anyway, and I exaggerate. Of course, I got beaten sometimes. But so there was one, I don't remember if it was a end of session like singles tournament or something, or if it was during league. But I just remember there were a bunch of people watching, more than just our two teams. There were some other people watching, and I was breaking, and I went to break as hard as I could, and of course I was fueled up on beer, and so in slow motion my tip, it went. So here's my tip. It came back, and it went, and it caught my finger. And then it shot through here, but it shot through like sideways, sort of. And so here's the cue ball, and my stick went, and it was like on the table, perfect follow through, and it was next to the cue ball and never touched it, but it was right next to it. Like, and I just like froze, and I looked down, and the cue ball still on the table, and I was like, Jesus Christ! and I stood up, and I was like, I fooled you or something, like I tried to kind of make it like it was kind of intentional. And maybe some of them believed it. I think most of them didn't, but the other one was playing at BC Sports Club on a Friday night.
What he's neglecting to say is he eventually broke and ran that when he finally broke it.
So. It's all a blur after that. And then the other one, at BC Sports Pub, there were 5 tables. They had a tournament there every Friday night. I was playing, it was my break, and there was one, like a table here, and then another one here. So they were end to end. And I was breaking on like this table, breaking towards, so like, I'm explaining this right. If these are the 2 tables, I'm breaking like here. I'm standing here, breaking that direction. And then they break from this end. So the other table had a game going on, and it was like in the middle of the game, like 14 balls were still on the table. So I break, and I jump the cue ball, like it skims the head ball just like kind of halfway on the top of it, and then just sails across the other table, and then lands on their table, doesn't hit one of their balls, and then bounces off that table and goes all the way back to the drink table. And they had these big, like 24-ounce big glass mugs. And there was one that was like half full of beer. And the cue ball said, bounced off that table, landed that, and just shattered shit everywhere. It was glass, beer. And no one got cut, and no one got like the person that was
they were just
with the
thirsty.
beer. Like luckily, no one got drunk. Like it was, the whole place stopped. It was so loud. It was very embarrassing for sure.
So did you walk over and say, "Excuse me, can I have my cue ball back?" Or what'd you do?
Everyone in the place was just staring at me like, what? I'm like, it's like frozen. I don't know. It's like a deer in headlights. But I don't know. But I was sorry. I'll buy you another beer. Clean up aisle 5.
That's fun. All right. The next section is called the rapid fire. I'll let Dave take it away, Dave.
Yeah. So cue stick, wood or carbon fiber shaft?
I play with carbon fiber. I love it. I used to play with wood. Obviously, everyone did, and but I will never go back.
Glove or bare hand?
Always bare hand for me because I naturally have very dry hands, like super dry, even when I'm nervous. If they got clammy, I would wear a glove, but my hands are so dry that when I've tried on gloves, it's actually not as smooth as my dry, scaly hands.
You've already said you prefer 8-ball over 9-ball.
Yes, please.
One pocket, any other game that you really...
People make fun of me all the time because I don't play it. And they're like, you used to be so good at it with all your strategy. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. I'm still learning that game. I don't want to pick...
love defense,
I don't
but not that much.
Exactly, yeah.
3 hours of defense. Bar table or full size?
I love bar table just because that's most of the tournaments I play on. I have a big table in the mountains, and I love to play on it. And I love big tables, but I just compete more in bar tables, so I love it because of that. It's what I'm used to.
Leagues or tournaments?
Tournaments for sure.
Yeah. And play the worst pool of your life and win, or play the best pool of your life and lose?
I know you're supposed to say play the best and. Makes you sound like a good person.
Ego versus humility, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm there to compete and win, not at all costs. I mean, I would never cheat, but so there's been plenty of matches that I've won where I've been like, "Ooh, I got lucky there." I didn't deserve, but I sure am glad I won. So, but now if it's the worst pool of my life, I mean, I don't even know what that means really. So I don't know how I can play the worst and lose, but I don't know. I like to win, but I don't mind losing when I play really well. Like if I don't make a mistake and my opponent plays better, it sucks, but it happens. And at least you're like, well,
I think for me, the maddest I get is when I don't do well. If I don't live up to what I expect from myself, that irks me and I lose sleep over that versus some great player just waxing me and I don't even get a shot.
Yeah. I do like to win, and it keeps the tournament going.
Yeah. You keep playing more if you win. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about being hot seat or coming from the loser side. You keep playing so that you can keep in rhythm and in stroke. But if you sit on, the hot seat, you could be sitting there for a couple hours or so and just not really competing.
I'll take it. I'll take that anytime. I'll take the hot seat anytime. I'll sit and wait. I mean, I've won my fair share of tournaments to the loser side, but it's tough. It's tough when you lose early. The odds of you winning are very slim, unless you are far superior to everyone else.
Yeah, and some days, like in nationals, you might have. I think I've played 14 hours in one day.
But yeah, I have too. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
It's an endurance test for sure.
It's fun though. It's fun. You get in that groove, and you just become like a tired robot, like a robot with like where the battery warning light is flashing, but you're still functioning.
Yeah. Once you have that shot, you're like, okay, I do this and this and this, and it goes in. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we've got one more question just for our audience. So, what's one piece of advice you'd give to anyone trying to improve their pool game?
I think you know the answer. Take lessons. Yeah, that's honestly.
Look good doing it. Buy something from Bear Down Billiards.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not here to promote.
So come
I
on.
appreciate stuff. Yeah, that I mean, I think there's a happy balance between practice and competing. I think both both of them have their benefits, and I think they're equal. I think you could practice too much if you're not really using it to compete, then it's it's kind of hard to gauge if you're how much you're improving until you've put it into because it's a different beast when you're doing drills or doing something versus when there's more of a consequence if you mess. And then if you, at the same time, if all you do is compete, whether it's uh, playing in tournaments or leagues or gambling, and you don't practice, then you can't fix your mistakes. So I think that doing some form of both on a regular basis is
That's good.
That's well said.
Yeah, no doubt. It's like you go to the golf course and you're great on the range, and it's hard to bring that game to the course.
that is a perfect analogy.
Yeah, and you can not play well some days, but you score. And there's other days you can play well, but you just do not score. The ball just does not find the hole. And trying to balance both of those is tough.
Yeah. There are a lot of similarities in these two games, that's for sure.
Well, this has been excellent. Remind us how people can find you online or look for your podcast.
Either my name, Chisolm Woodson. You can always send me a message, and then also through the Bear Down Billiards Facebook page.
I also want to thank the listeners for tuning in, and keep practicing, and may all your shots be on target.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you, Chisolm. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
I want listeners to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. And most importantly, if you find this on YouTube, give a comment. Yeah, we want some feedback on it. So that would be great to see.
Play more pool.
Exactly.